the ERA got cut in half, and then all of a sudden I was an all-star, and then I was in
Mm,
like an opening day starter shortly thereafter. So it was
yeah.
just a matter of, putting in that work. A lot of times you put in that work in the minor leagues and people don't see all the bumps in the road, and then you arrive at the
Mm.
major league level and it seems to be smooth sailing. But for me, my path of all those hard earned lessons were on full display at the major league level in my time in Oakland.
Welcome to Champion This with Briana Salvatore Dueck and Chelsea Poppens, where we share the incredible stories of athletes and entertainers who are using their platforms to create positive change in the world and the communities they live in.
Today we have Tyson Ross on the podcast. Tyson is a former professional MLB baseball player where he had an incredible career playing for teams including the Oakland A's, San Diego Padres, Detroit Tigers, St. Louis Cardinals, and Texas Rangers. Tyson has earned a ton of accolades across the board, from being selected as an MLB All-Star in 2014, National League Pitcher of the Month, and also being a finalist for the National League Gold Glove Award, among others. He's also a Bay Area native, Cal Berkeley alum, where he earned Pac-10 honors in 2008 and 2007. And he's also the founder of a Bay Area nonprofit called Loyal to My Soil, which aims to grow the game of baseball and inspire the next generation of kids in the community. Welcome to the podcast, Tyson.
Thank you very much. I'm excited to join y'all.
Yeah, so we always like to kick off the podcast by digging into you and your background. And so we'd love to hear a little bit more about when you first fell in love with baseball and how did that become such an ingrained piece of you?
Yeah, I grew up playing youth baseball in Oakland, down the street from the Oakland Coliseum, actually, at Greenman Field. It's the same field where Ricky Henderson grew up, Dave Stewart, Bip Roberts. It's a really historic place for the Oakland community in baseball. And, I spent all day, all night out there as a kid from the time I was 4 years old with T-ball all the way through 13, 14. And it was just a hub in the community. I'm the oldest of three. My dad coached. My mom either coached T-ball and then ran the snack bar. My sister played, my brother played, and so it was just, the Ross family was always out there at the baseball fields at Greenman and in East Oakland, and that's where I fell in love with the game.
Mm. And your brother went on to play too, didn't he? Correct?
Yeah, he's
Okay.
still actively playing. He's a pitcher with he's a free agent right now. He was with the Milwaukee Brewers. They got bumped in the NL wild card crazy series against the Mets. So yeah, he's still doing it. He got a World Series ring in 2019 with the Nationals, and yeah, it's pretty cool to have a brother that's followed the same journey as you and is still actively doing it.
That's awesome. Were your family game nights just insanely competitive, having three athletes, like you being one of three athlete siblings? I can only imagine.
Oh man, I wish we had game nights. It was honestly because both of us played baseball. My sister was a high level soccer player. We were always going to or from games, practices. It was kind of like get home late after whatever sport activity, eat and try and do some homework. So we didn't have game nights, but yeah, it's definitely we have a competitive gene in our DNA, I think.
Was there
Yeah.
anything specific that your parents did to raise such elite level athletes all around, all across the board? Like, was there anything?
Oh man, I thinking back on it, I think my dad used to just kick us out of the house. Like if he was at home with us, he would just say, "Go outside," and
Lock the door, be
no,
back
he
by
he legit
sunset.
locked the door one time and fell asleep, and we had to call, go to a neighbor's house and get her to call and wake him up so he could get back inside. But yeah, I mean, we were kids. It was like the '90s, so it was safe. You just went outside and played, and climbing trees. We were always playing some sort of sport, whether it was organized or just recreational. We just made up the rules, but we were just active kids and just had a lot of energy to burn. And inside is where we would break things, so we had to go outside.
Yeah, totally. Shout out to your parents. I mean, I think about my parents too, like driving me 3 hours to
Hmm.
practice one way and back and all the tournaments every weekend. Yeah, they really are the MVPs. Have
100%.
you taken some of those lessons being a dad now? Are you kind of like, hey, you're not allowed in the house?
Oh yeah, we need to loosen the reins a little bit and just get the boys outside. They're still pretty young. I've got two that are 5, so one's in kindergarten, the other one's turning 3 on Sunday. So they're still little dudes. We got to kind of monitor them, but
You still got
yeah,
the air tags on them.
yeah. You got to be within eye shot still, but
No, kick him
yeah,
out of the
they're
house
definitely
yet.
active, and like I said, things inside get broken, and we're learning that fast, so we got to get them outdoors more.
Mm,
Yeah, totally. Well, to jump ahead a little bit, so you totally, you jumped into the sport young. Obviously, you were in a really competitive environment. You went on to play at Bishop O'Dowd, which is a really prominent high school in the Bay Area as well. And then you were drafted to Cal Berkeley, where, like we mentioned in the bio, you absolutely crushed it. You earned Pac-10 honors in 2007 and 2008, and you also helped lead your team to the NCAA tournament in 2008. What was your experience like playing at Cal and also playing under Coach David? I'm not going to say this right. Esquire. Did I butcher that?
Esker, yeah.
Esker. Voila.
My time at Cal was amazing. I mean, from the academics, from the environment, it's such a unique place because you get a world class education. The athletics at the time were outstanding across the board, and then the social life is also there too. So for me to kind of be a young kid trying to find his way through the sport of baseball, but also just kind of develop and grow as a human being, I think that was a perfect incubator for me. And Coach Esker is one of my favorite people still to this day. In sports, it's interesting because you don't get a chance to really choose who coaches you as a kid. It's usually your dad or parents or friends of friends, and then when you get to high school, it's whatever school's in your district, unless you can go to private school. But the only time that you really get to choose who you want to play for is when you make that college commitment. And I picked a place where I was comfortable with the school, I was comfortable with the coaching staff, and they were every bit of what I thought they were coming in, and I'm still close with all those coaches that mentored me at that time in my life, and I'm grateful for it.
mm.
Mm,
Like you talk about college, there's a lot of lessons that we learn when we're there. Were there any
Mhm.
major lessons that you learned while you were in college that help you prepare for the majors?
Yeah, definitely time management. Trying to balance a full academic workload plus trying to have some sort of a social life and all the demands of being a collegiate baseball player. In baseball, we would play 4 games a week, so it's 3 games over the weekend, and then you'd play a Tuesday game somewhere regionally, locally. So that's a lot
So
of
no
school that you're
social
missing.
life.
We found a way to get it in, but it was just understanding that, like, okay, baseball games are long. There's no clock, or there wasn't back then. So it was like we have a 3 to 5 hour game that's going to happen 4 days a week, and we're traveling all over the country to do it. Like, how am I going to get to my classes that I can actually make it in person, and then how do I catch up on the ones where I'm not going to physically be there, and juggle all these things, and just make sure that I'm eligible, I'm taking care of business, so I'm actually on track towards graduation at some point in the future. And then also I'm a handling my business on the baseball field, where that's ultimately what I was there to do, was try and learn for 3 years, work towards my degree, and then turn to a professional career.
yeah, totally. And speaking of that professional career, you actually decided to forego your senior year of college and declare for the
Mhm.
draft. So you were selected in the second round of the 2008 MLB draft to the Oakland A's. Talk to us about that moment of being drafted, and then also kind of what that transition was like for you to the professional game compared with the college game.
Yeah, I was super excited when I got drafted by my hometown team. It was basically a dream come true. One day I was a kid living in a dirty apartment in Berkeley, and surviving off of bill money, and then next thing you know, I've got a signing bonus and a bank account, and I'm putting on the jersey that I for the hometown team that I rooted for growing up. So it was really exciting for me and my family at that time. I was able to go to the Oakland Coliseum, and I think it was actually before a game against the Yankees. They brought us in.
Wow.
I got to go down on the field, throw a bullpen, hang out during batting practice. They gave us a little suite. I brought me in the booth, interviewed me on TV, and so it all happened super fast. It was like 1 minute I was moving out of my ugly apartment. Next thing I know, I was putting on a pro uniform in Arizona and starting my career. Once I got out there and
Wow.
started playing, it was a big adjustment for me because it was
Yeah.
you know baseball every day, and that's all you have. And the
Mm,
social circle got really small. So when I was
mm,
at school, you had a built-in framework of friends and a little bit of a social life. I lived in a row of apartments where it was like baseball, volleyball, football players. And so we kind of had this little community of outside of practice, outside of class, doors were always unlocked. You just walk into each other's apartments, hang out, and you have like a little bit of a community. But when you go off to play professionally, you're in small towns you've never heard of, ride buses all day long, and you have those 25 guys that are on your team, and half of them are Latin, and you're trying to get to know each other through the course of this season. So that was a bit of adjustment, just understanding that I had this whole world that I was no longer a part of, because now it's time to go to work. I'm out in the middle of the Midwest on a bus for 9 hours, and when we get to the destination, I've got to pitch that day. So it was
Mm,
a bit of an adjustment, but it was cool because it's just part of the journey.
mm-hmm.
Hmm. Yeah, that balance of life and work, especially when you first get there, is tough. How did you
Mhm.
find time to meet your wife?
It was early, so we started hanging out. She's local, and we started hanging out early in college. She was going to a local junior college, and spending time with her while she was here. And then she went to school in LA, so it was kind of like I'd go down to play USC, UCLA. She'd come through the hotel, pick me up, we'd go hang out, get some food, and then hang out over Christmas breaks and things like that. So we got to know each other at a young age, over a long period of time. So it's been pretty cool.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And so then you were with the A's for 4 years, and then you were traded to San Diego Padres in 2012, where you spent the majority of your career. And you had incredible tenure with this club, earning MLB All-Star honors in 2014 and boasting a 2.81 ERA in 2014. And you were ranking among the best in the National League. Talk to us about how playing for the Padres shaped you as a player and as a person.
Yeah, my time in San Diego was definitely special. I performed well on the field, had a lot of great memories, met a lot of great people down there, and really just it was kind of one of the highlights of my career, just my
Mm,
time down there. Started my career in Oakland. I was super young. I was 22, 23 in the big leagues. Like I played one full year in the minor leagues, which like never happens. And so
mm,
I was a kid trying to figure out how to survive at the highest level. And there's a lot of early failures that were tough to swallow at the time, but
mm,
ultimately I learned all these ways that didn't work, and I was able to pivot and adjust. And it kind of came to a head at the time of getting traded to San Diego, working with a new pitching coach, and then having a fresh start with that club in the Padres. And so I think if you look at the back of a baseball card, you'll see a couple ugly years to start it off, and then all of a sudden something happened in San Diego, and the ERA got cut in half, and then all of a sudden I was an all-star, and then I was in
mm.
like an opening day starter shortly thereafter. So it was
Yeah.
just a matter of, putting in that work. A lot of times you put in that work in the minor leagues and people don't see all the bumps in the road, and then you arrive at the
Mm.
major league level and it seems to be smooth sailing. But for me, my path of all those hard earned lessons were on full display at the major league level in my time in Oakland.
Yeah, I love that because I feel like it's so easy for people to be like, wow, look at Tyson, never faced any setbacks. He's just had this super illustrious career. But like, I think there's such a process and a journey to becoming successful and like achieving your full potential. And a lot of times we don't talk about like the grind and the discipline that it takes to get there. I think maybe as athletes we kind of intuitively get process, but then for some reason you get into like your career post sports and people just expect you to have arrived and forget about this whole thing of like there's a process to finding your passion, your purpose post sport, and a process to becoming the best sports marketer out there or whatever your career is.
Hmm.
But I think that's just such a great reminder for like there's so much work that goes on behind the scenes that is so huge to setting ourselves up for that success later, and also like finding joy in that work and being okay with not being the best right away, or kind of embracing that process. But I love that.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Did it feel tough for you when you first got traded because you're like, wait, loyal to my soil, I'm a Bay Area guy, like I don't want to leave the A's? Or did you see it kind of as like this exciting new challenge and kind of embrace the opportunity to play with the Padres?
Yeah, it was definitely a welcome change at that point. I was I just needed a change of scenery. I love the Bay Area, and it's funny in baseball. There's kind of like a curse if you buy a house in the city you play in, you usually end up getting traded. And I'd actually just bought a house in the Oakland Hills with my brother, who was drafted. He's a first round pick, drafted by San Diego in 2011. So
Oh, wow.
before the 2012 season, we bought a house together and spent the off season living and training together. And I was kind of showing him the ropes of what it takes to be a pro, how you eat, how you sleep, working out, all that kind of stuff. And that next season ended up getting traded right after the season ended. And even though I was from Oakland, it made sense, logistically to buy a house there. It was still the baseball curse got me, and I ended
The
up getting traded.
baseball.
But I mean, I couldn't have asked for a better place to be traded to. Still being on the West Coast, and San Diego is absolutely beautiful. So I had a good time down there, and it was the perfect situation because they needed some fresh arms, and there was plenty of
Mm,
opportunity, and they gave me the runway I needed to kind of figure it out and turn my career around. So it was pretty cool.
What
mm.
was it like playing with your brother, to kind of go back to you playing alongside Joe?
Mhm.
Was there some rivalry, or did you guys push each other, or what was kind of that dynamic?
Yeah, we never got to play in a regular season together, but we were in big league camp and spring training in
Okay.
2015. So he's 6 years younger. So at the time he was drafted, he was like an 18-year-old, lowest levels of the minor league system, and I was getting traded over from the big leagues. And so I was kind of always paving the way for him, and it was pretty cool because looking back on it, he was like a sophomore in high school, and I was a rookie in the majors. And so he was coming into the players' lot. He's in the tunnel with the families after the games. He was going to games all the time, bringing his high school friends out there, and he got to see what it looked like up close and kind of know what the path was ahead for him.
Mm.
Spending those off seasons together, training, throwing, is always a lot of fun. Learning, watching him grow, and then ultimately being able to see him achieve his dream down the line. It was really special.
Yeah, that's
You
so
get
cool.
you gave him a leg up.
Yeah, yeah.
Totally, yeah. I'm curious, so being particularly being an MLB pitcher is, like, such a unique thing in sports because you're not playing every game, but there's such a mental component to it where you come in and you have to deliver and really show up, and you play such a pivotal role. You're kind of like the point guard of the baseball team. But talk to us about particularly like being an MLB pitcher and your mindset around how you would prepare for games. And it's just kind of fascinating and foreign to me being, like on a team sport where we played every game and it was different.
Yeah, it's most of my career I was a starting pitcher, and you're essentially a specialist. You pitch every 5 days. You don't have anyone else that's going through the same routine on the same day as you. So after you pitch, it's up to you to be on time for your workouts, for your long toss, for your preparation. You're always kind of orbiting around the team as a kind of like mercenary, almost like I've got this job to accomplish today that's different than everyone else that's preparing for the game tonight. Like I've got to get all my work in before that first pitch of the game so that I'm physically and mentally prepared for my start, whether it's 2 or 3 days from now. And so you really have to be pretty dialed in with your routine and just be self-sufficient more than anything. It's such a long season, and there's so many ups and downs that, if you have a good start, you have to replicate what you did, with the energy and preparation to have another good start. And there's different things that pop up through the course of a season. You may have, tight back, bad hamstring,
Mhm.
elbow's been sore, and you're like, okay, I need to tweak my routine, but also make sure I get my work in enough so that I'm prepared to go out there and do my job when it's my time to take the mound.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And you had a signature pitch, right? Was it the slider?
Yeah, yeah. I had a breaking ball that, luckily I somehow learned it as like an 11-year-old, and it was just something that the first time I threw it, it just felt natural, and I saw a break. And over the course of from 11 to the next 11 years, I really figured out how to master it. And it took me, it's that pitch that separated me from the rest of the group, and that's how I got to the major leagues at such a young age. Was I had a pitch that just stood out from the rest.
Does every pitcher have a signature pitch?
Every pitcher does something special, whether it's one unique pitch, or just the inability for hitters to recognize what that pitch is, or have excellent command. Like everyone is special in their own unique way, and I think the guys at the highest level are able to not only harness that, but be able to repeat it more often than the rest. I mean, the talent level in the minor leagues is exceptional right now, and it's just a matter of repeating and executing it when it matters. You know, if you do it 1 out of 10
Mm,
times, that's not good enough. But if you're 7 to 8 times out of 10, like you're pretty unique, and that's something that teams can rely on consistently.
mm, mhm. Totally. I love that. So cool. Well, to talk a little bit about, we talked about some of the highs of your career, but would love, if you're open to it, to talk about some of the setbacks you've encountered across your
Mhm.
career. But what were some of those major challenges that you faced as an athlete, and how did these challenges shape the person that you are today?
Yeah, there's plenty of challenges in sport. Initially for me, it was getting to the major leagues at such a young age and then dealing with failure for the first time. As a 22, 23-year-old, you're playing against the best players in the world, period. Like, there's no age limit. You're not playing a year or two above like in college. I was playing with guys that I watched, playing with and against guys I watched growing up. Ken Griffey Jr. was one of the guys I faced in my debut. Ichiro was the first player to get a hit off of me. Like, I grew up playing those guys, their video games, idolizing what they were doing on the baseball field, and they were still the best in the world at it by the time I made it to the major leagues. And so I had a lot to learn. I definitely had failures early on. My baseball card will show you that. But dealing with failure, being at home in front of friends and family, everyone can turn on the news or open the newspaper and see your struggles the day before. If you work in an office and you have a bad day on a Monday, like, you feel crappy about it and you go home and you wake up, nobody knows what happened yesterday. But when you're a professional athlete in your hometown, everyone knows. Social media was just taken off with Facebook and things like that. And so I had extra attention on me for the good and the bad. And so that was something I had to deal with. And with it comes self-doubt and stress, and at times anxiety, trouble sleeping, all that I'm sure tons of people go through. And it was something I had to deal with as a young kid that was trying to make it, and on the cusp of realizing his dream, but also feeling like he was failing at the same time.
Mm. Yeah, I think Bree can attest to this too, as like playing in college, but like the mentality. And we grew up in a different era than it is now around like um mental health, I guess, with resources to help like sports psychologists and other avenues of being able to help athletes wherever whatever level they're at. Do you Did you feel like resourced at that point in time, or was there anything that you wish you had while you were playing pro or in college that would have helped that mental side of it?
There were mental skills professionals that were around, and for the most part, they were kind of brought to us by the team, and it felt like if you went in that room, you weren't going to come out and be able to be looked at the same by the organization. And so, it was a very much a time where you just didn't talk about it, and
Mm.
you just pushed feelings down, dealt with it on your own. But luckily for me, I figured out early on how to use an Amazon account and got a Kindle app, and I started pouring into just the resources of other professionals and their books that could help me along my way. And, rather than learn about how to focus on the positives and not the negatives, and just changing my mindset, and all these little things, at that time started to change the course of my career, so that when I did get to San Diego, I had more of a robust tool belt when it came to dealing with stresses and the mental side of the game, and in addition to physically being better than I had been previously. And that's kind of, what turned things around for me.
Mhm. Do you feel like it's not talked about enough by athletes today?
I think the culture is definitely changing. I mean, there's podcasts out there. My buddy's got one, Playing Through Pod, which is awesome, and it's all about men's mental health. The resources within organizations are phenomenal now. I know within the LA Dodgers organization, they have a strong mind team that kills it on all sides. Mental performance, lifestyle, just coaching up young men to be great people and great athletes. And so I know across the board, people are really putting an emphasis on that because it's more important now than ever. And yeah, I think for most kids out there, it's at the youth level, it's getting pretty crazy too, just how competitive things can be. The
Mm,
travel ball and all that. I've got parents reaching out to me all the time talking about, like, hey, can you help my kid? And it's like, you gotta grow with him. You have to navigate the conversations differently. And just kind of
Mm.
everyone needs to be better and take the stress off the athletes, because at the end of the day, we're all playing a game. And if you can reframe your perspective on it, you're going to be in a much better place.
I do love how it's gotten to a more like standardized view of it because I train boys in basketball. And there's like I don't know, you see this the stigma behind boys and understanding their mental health and the understanding their emotions. And even like with my husband, I joke around that he doesn't have inner peace and he needs to talk about it. He needs to talk about his emotions and his feelings and he'll be like, I'll just lift it out. I'll just lift it
Yeah.
out. But like I do think there's something special about like you advocating for mental health and the podcast that you're referring to at like allowing men to feel comfortable expressing where they're at and understanding their mental health a little bit and being more vocal about it because it's definitely something that I think a lot of men and a lot of boys push down because they don't feel like it's something they should be inviting in or doing or participating in. So I think that's awesome.
Yeah. Thank you.
For sure. Well, to fast forward a little bit, kind of moving along your baseball journey, in addition to playing for the Padres, you also played for the Padres and the A's. You also played for
Mhm.
some other clubs, including the Rangers, the Tigers, and the Cardinals. Eventually, in 2020, you decided to step away from professional baseball. So this is a question, that a lot of athletes get, but how did you navigate your next play in really finding your passion post professional baseball?
Um, it's hard to say this, but like, luckily for me, COVID happened, and it was like this ultimate disruptor to normal life as everyone knew it.
Mm,
For me, it ended my playing career for the most part, but it also allowed me this gap of being at home, trying to figure out what was next for me. And I knew that I always wanted to finish my degree. So my exit plan to exit strategy, if you will, to playing baseball was, as soon as I'm done, I'm going to go back to school, finish my degree at Berkeley, and that'll give me a gap to kind of figure out what's next. And over that 3 semesters is when I started Loyal to My Soil, which is the foundation that I run out here in the Bay Area. I got on the field a little bit, helped the baseball team. I realized I enjoy like player development and coaching, and then that kind of opened my eyes to the opportunities of working potentially for a professional team as well. So COVID was basically this perfect stopgap in time in which I had the ability to kind of pursue some other interests. And I say I used to spend all my energy and focus on trying to figure out how to get hitters out 5 days from now. And once that was taken away, I had an opportunity to kind of look around and see what's the next problem I want to solve. And for me, that was growing the game of baseball and softball for underserved kids in the Bay Area, and then also helping other athletes achieve their dreams as they navigate their way towards the professional levels.
Mm. So many so many athletes go through that identity crisis. Was that something you experienced or did you already have time to kind of come to terms with who you are and outside of a baseball player during COVID?
Yeah, I mean, the hardest part for me was just letting go of the game. I continued to
hmm
throw and work out and stay in shape and try and, I went to spring training one more time after that. I threw for a couple pro scouts a few more times to see if anyone wanted to sign me later. And I was close, but if the bar is up here, I was like right here. I wasn't good enough, and I was older than the rest of the prospects. And, my time in the game was, as a competitor, was over. But that was probably the hardest part, is just giving up on that side of it, because I still miss the competition, the camaraderie with the guys. I
Yeah.
have to find ways to compete with myself now. I don't have that confrontation of a hitter standing 60 feet 6 inches away and trying to get him out. But overall, just my identity as a baseball player. Luckily, I grew up and started to have a broader perspective on things, and get outside of just life at the stadium and between the lines, and find other interests that took some of my attention. And so not playing has given me the opportunity to expand those interests and really grow as a person as well.
Bree and I still experience that. We're like, we can still play. We still got it. The competitor comes out.
Yeah. That's what pickleball's for, though, right?
Yeah,
You go get out on the
exactly.
course and just
Exactly. But
Um,
Tyson, I think it's so beautiful because you did mention that you were in that year of 2020, you were able to really find this next passion, which was empowering the next generation of athletes. And you did found your nonprofit. I would love to talk about Loyal to My Soil. First of all, what a name. In my head, I just think E40, Bay
Yeah,
Area, Yay area, let's go.
yeah,
But the mission of Loyal to My Soil is to re-engage the youth with the game of baseball by providing free camps and top-notch instruction from high-level players. Talk to us more about kind of the process of starting this nonprofit and what it's meant to you.
yeah. So, like I mentioned, I think with the very first question, like where I fell in love with the game was in East Oakland playing baseball. That league at the time was 1,200 kids deep. It was a hub in the community. You know, you could be out there from sun up to sundown, and your parents could just leave and know that you would be fine playing pickup games and chasing down foul balls and having a lot of fun. And during that time in 2020, I was reconnecting with some people in the community and checking in and seeing, you know, what needs there were out there. And I found out that that league had suffered, you know, tremendous loss and was down to less than 200 kids prior to COVID. Just a lack of leadership, lack of community engagement, and you know, travel sports had taken over and really depleted the league of players and coaches that really cared and would go above and beyond. And so I realized quickly that even though I was trying to exit the world of being a baseball player, I still have this influence in the baseball world and an incredible network. And so that's where I got to work and decided if I can pool my resources together with my friends and family in the game, together we can really make an impact. And you know, I think our first camp was in 2020. We gave away a bunch of gloves to a local kid, a local youth team in Oakland, and you know, it was cool. It was impactful. We gave away 40, 50 gloves, did a Q&A, took some photos, and it was short lived. You know, I was driving away and I was thinking,
Hmm.
man, that was cool. We gave them some equipment, gave them an experience, but like we didn't teach them anything about the game. Like my brother and I were out there, and between us, we probably had at that point like 20 plus years of professional experience. And we didn't show them how to throw a ball, how to field a ball, how to swing a bat. And so I started thinking, okay, how do we make a bigger impact and grow the game? And there's a ton of former athletes that live in the area, and we're all kind of doing something but also doing nothing. And if we can take the time on a Sunday to come out and get some kids together and share our knowledge of the game and inspire them, it's like, how impactful can that be? And so that's what we did. We started with in 2021, I think we had 40 kids at the very first camp, and we had MLB All-Stars, World Series champions, MVPs, um, everything show up to give back to the kids, to grow the game, inspire them. People from the Bay, people that played in the Bay that looked like those kids. We were doing it all for free. And it was something that was truly special and never been done before. And it was, you know, essentially an experience that if you wanted to pay for it, you couldn't. Like, it's not happening anywhere else. And so that's where we started. The kids of 40 kids has grown to 150 at a time. We're starting to partner with high schools. We partnered with Cal Berkeley, got their baseball team involved, and now we're starting to create this feedback loop in the community where high school kids can volunteer and help and give back
Mm.
to, you know, little league kids. College kids can connect with the youth, and now we're going back in the spring. We're going to have those same kids that were at the camp at Cal Berkeley. We're going to go back to a game and watch those kids compete and just really tie in the community. And so that's what we've been doing, is just growing, you know, growing the game, growing community through sport. We've expanded to softball. We've expanded outside of the Bay Area, and we're really just trying to go to any community that wants to have us, wants to build around the game and just have a lot of fun.
That's amazing. I love it. Is there any upcoming projects for Loyal to Soil, to My Soil, that the listeners should be on the lookout for, or ways that they can contribute to what you guys are doing?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. We've got a lot of things in the works right now. I think the next thing coming up is on December 21st. We're going to do a holiday giveaway. Uh, it's free. You just got to go online, sign up. We've got youth gloves, we've got bags, various equipment just for the families in need before the holidays. We all have little athletes, and the sport's expensive. And so it's an opportunity for you to come down to Oakland. We got a great restaurant that's hosting us, the best Olympia in the Bay Area. We'll have the Warriors game on. The 3 hour window, pull up. You know, once you register, you just pull up and take your goodies home and wrap them and put them under the tree for the kids. That's on December 21st. I think in January 19th, we're going to do a Grow the Game Gala at the Blackhawk Museum over here in Danville. It'll be a great night of dinner, drinks, some local awards, bringing the community together. It should be a lot of fun. Both of y'all should come out if you're available. I think it'd be cool
Yes,
outside of the
say less.
basketball world, but it'd be a lot of fun. And yeah, I thought
I
both of
mean,
those are
I
open
will
to the
take
public.
I'll take any excuse to get out of Iowa in this cold weather
Oh
right
no, you're in
now.
Iowa. Okay. Yeah.
I'm here for it.
Oh,
I
that's
think Southwest
awesome.
has some specials going on. Yeah, you'll be all right.
Right, right. Oh, that's so cool, Tyson. We will definitely link any links for our listeners to potentially get
Okay.
involved or if there's a way to donate to. But really, just love the work that you're doing. And I think also thinking through kind of like the Bay Area at the moment with the A's leaving the Bay and kind of a lot of sports teams have actually, in particular, left Oakland. And so being able to come in and really continue to be that beacon in the community and engage athletes and engage the youth, I think is just awesome. So anything we can do to support, we are in your corner and we love all things Tyson. So it's
Much
awesome.
appreciated.
Yeah. Well, to finish off every podcast, before we get to the lightning round, we have one question that we ask every listener, which is, do you have any advice for listeners looking to use their talents and passions to make the world a better place?
Yeah, I'd say start with your why and hold on to that and just take action. I think a lot of times we get caught up thinking about all the reasons why this may be challenging, this is hard, I can't do this. If you have a strong enough why, like for me, to grow the game and re-engage the youth, you just hold on to that and just put your nose down and grind it out and just pivot
Mm,
as necessary. But taking action will reveal the best path forward. I think a lot of times we get caught up in not taking action because we're scared of failure and all these other things. Just go for it. I think for change to happen, you have to act. And the sooner you act, the sooner you realize what really needs to be done. Like I said, we started with giving away gloves, quickly pivoted to taking action on the field, and then found our lane and just took off with it. So
Mm,
that's my best advice is, yeah, have a good strong why and take action.
that's great advice.
yeah,
Woo.
great.
Well, I think that brings us into our lightning round. Pew, pew, pew. Let's go. So these are our quick answer questions. And so our first question is who was the biggest trash talker when you played in the MLB?
Baseball is unique. We don't interact with each other. We're not physically touching each other. Like we're not in the paint banging and talking trash like that. But
Yeah.
we spend a lot of time together with our teammates. And one of my good friends, Andrew Kashner, was a great pot stirrer. He knew how to get under people's skin, and he was always talking trash and trying to get a reaction out of people. So yeah,
I love
Cash
it.
is that guy. Yeah.
Cash, stir in the pot. We love it. Okay, next question. How did you get the nickname Freeway?
Yeah, that was my brother-in-law. So he's a big historical guy, big rap fan, and so Freeway Rick Ross was a 1980s 90s drug dealer out of LA, and so you know everyone uses last names when you're talking about people in sports, and so he was like, Ross, you're like Freeway Ross, and I was like, I don't know who that is, and had to look it up, and then it was just, it's a funny nickname. And I actually used it for that Players Weekend jersey. And it was probably one of the ones where people were always asking about it. And I didn't want to tell people in the media, like, oh, it's a drug dealer in LA back in the day. But I did. There is another story where I hit a home run at the San Leandro ball field that went over a freeway overpass. So I was like, oh, I hit a home run as a high school kid that went over a freeway. And so that's
You
why
had to
people
come
called me
up with
Freeway.
some bogus
Yeah, yeah,
story.
yeah. The home run was legit. That story's legit, but that wasn't the origin of the name, truly. Yeah.
Gotcha. All right. Third question. What was your favorite walkout song during your career?
Let's see. Early on in my career, it was actually super dope because I was playing for the A's. It was Deltron 3030 Mastermind. Uh, for people in the Bay that know it, it's just a classic. But
You
I
gotta
also,
give us a quick little spiel, like a 10
oh, it's
second.
not like I could play it on my phone, but it's like it's not even lyrically. It's just like this, like I don't know. It's Deltron is Del the Funky Homo Sapien. He had a futuristic rap album that was supposed to take place in 3030. It's like this dystopian future hip hop album. It's really weird, but people that are from the Bay and know it, it's like pretty cool. I just
That's
wish I pitched
cool.
better when I had it because I sucked on the mound, but I was like, man, I love this song.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's okay. That's awesome. Okay, this is a random question. Are you a pregame napper or were you? I was, so this is why I ask.
I was.
Oh, I wish I was. So as a starting pitcher, no, I had to keep myself
Oh,
moving. Otherwise I would sit there and think about the game at 7. And then when I actually later in my career was pitching out of the bullpen. I found a good little nap routine. I was older and I needed to kind of get my energy up, but also I realized like I've done all the preparation I need to do. I can't like keep moving every single day because I don't know when I'm going to pitch. So if I just do my prep and then part of my routine is a nap, I feel like I'm refreshed and ready to go. So, and then at that point, MLB teams started putting in little nap rooms and giving you quiet spaces to get away. Like normally it used to just be loud music blasting all the time. And,
Yeah.
they didn't go the extra mile to clear out the utility closet across the hall from the clubhouse. It was just like, just listen to this music and there's no place to get away. You're just stuck.
Yeah. Yeah. MLB is clutch for that. A nap room. I love that.
I know. We never
They've
got
grown
that.
a lot. And, it's pretty remarkable the resources players have now. But we also would spend from 11 o'clock in the morning to 11 o'clock at night at the stadium for 162 games. So it's like there's only so much you can physically do.
I think some college basketball teams should have nap rooms. I mean, you're spending majority of your time at Iowa State has Sukup, which is the practice facility and has everything that the athletes go to. I feel like they need a nap room. I'm just going to advocate for that.
Well, there's actually a company, a lady down in the Southway. It's called Zden, and it's a little pop-up tent that folds down into it looks like a window shade for your car, but it's like your personal nap pod. You just pop it up. It's completely blacked out. You can get in there anywhere. It could be as bright as this, and you could just have your own little nap room, and you put some noise canceling headphones in, you're good to go.
Wow.
Yeah. Danielle with Zden's awesome. She's been a great supporter, loyal, and definitely want to throw that out there because for all the teams that don't have the budget to put in a full nap room, like I got a couple of them and ordered them and sent them over to the Cal baseball team for their recovery room that they built out. And, awesome. I use them when I travel. It's a pretty cool product. Yeah. Something worth looking into.
Yeah. We'll have to look at that. All right. Last question. Also, we'll include that link. We'll try to find a link to that to pop in the episode show notes. If you could get dinner with any pro athlete in history, who would it be and why?
I would say Muhammad Ali. I saw the documentary like Rumble in the Jungle back in like the 4th grade, and it just blew my socks off. And just seeing who he was as an athlete, as a person, as a leader, I think that would be just one of the most entertaining, eye-opening experiences to share a meal with Ali.
Good answer. That's awesome. Well, Tyson, it has been so great having you on the podcast. We love your story. We really want to champion you and all the great things you have going as well. So yeah, thank you again. And for our listeners, we'll link all the great resources in the show notes, and you can follow along on Tyson's personal socials and Loyal to My Soil socials, which will also be linked in the pod. Yeah, thanks again for your time. It's been really awesome.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah.